Welcome to another episode of Whether or Not. We have a lot lined up for you today. We'll take a look at the California Rim Fire and check on its containment, and we'll also have a look at a brand new study released on Fire Island after Hurricane Sandy. Christy will be by with an all-important look at the Labor Day weekend forecast, and Tom will have another installment in his series on Penn State emergency management. All of that plus nature in the news and much more. Whether or Not starts now. And welcome to this episode of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Tyler Jankoski.
And I'm your forecaster, Christy Shields. Tyler, it's great to see you back in the studio.
Well, it's certainly nice to be back in State College for the fall semester, but I do have to say, living in a dorm with no AC over the last couple of days has been brutal, to say the least.
We have been in the 80s, which is above average. The average for this time of the year is 78 degrees. And on top of that 80-degree weather, we've seen a lot of moisture in the air, so the dew points have been higher, and I know it's been making my hair frizzy walking to class. But there is some relief in the forecast.
That's the good news, though. I look forward to your extended forecast. Christy will be back later with that Labor Day forecast, but now, nature in the news.
When the Fukushima nuclear power plant disaster happened in Japan 2 years ago, many were concerned about how far the radioactive material would spread. Now, a new paper in the Deep Sea Research One journal claims the radioactive ocean plume will reach the western U.S. coast by next April. Radioactive particles were detected in the air on the west coast only days after the incident in 2011, but particles in the ocean move much slower. Hence, the authors expect the oceanic particles to reach the U.S. West Coast in next April. But don't fear, the paper assures Americans that the oceanic plume of radioactive material from Fukushima will be harmless when it reaches our coastline. One of the authors of the paper, Dr. Eric Van Sebel, said, quote, "People on those coastlines should not be concerned as the concentration of radioactive material quickly drops below World Health Organization safety levels as soon as it leaves Japan's waters."
A massive fire in California known as the Rim Fire continues to burn out of control. As of Wednesday, more than 187,000 acres had been burned by the raging fire. 43,000 of those acres are inside of Yosemite National Park. Fire service officials have been able to build containment lines around 23% of the fire's perimeter. Tioga Road, a main access road into Yosemite National Park, has been shut down to allow firefighters to build those containment lines. More than 4,100 personnel are battling the fire, which is already the biggest wildfire in California since October 2007. Multiple campgrounds inside Yosemite have been closed, and some areas of the park are being evacuated. The Rim Fire has made advances in the direction of the man-made Hetch Hetchy Reservoir, which serves the majority of San Francisco nearly 200 miles to the west with public water. However, officials do not believe the fire will impact the safety of the drinking water because the reservoir is surrounded by rocky terrain and little in the way in brush. Now, as for the cause of the fire, that is still under investigation.
Many high plains farmers rely on underground water to irrigate their vast fields of crops. The source for the water is aquifers. The problem? Water is being drawn from these underground sources quicker than rain or snow can fill them up. A new study from Kansas State University provides a timetable for the remaining aquifer life. The study claims that farmers will begin to see a decline in the available water in 10 years if they keep drawing from the same amount of water from the underground sources. The study goes on to say that better irrigation technology and genetically improved corn will allow for an additional 10 years of harvesting, for a total of 20 more years. But after that, the outlook is not very good. The study predicts an end to the vast cornfields that currently exist in western Kansas today. While there are some alternative options, such as reducing water usage, now that might save agriculture as we know it in this area of the plains, it would take a large effort by farmers that are already trying to maximize output. But one small part of northwest Kansas is already experimenting. Farmers in this area agreed to cut water usage by 20% for the next 5 years, but only time will tell if this cut is effective at allowing the underground aquifers to replenish.
It's been 10 months since Hurricane Sandy pummeled the northeastern coast from the Jersey Shore to Long Island. While the cleanup and rebuilding continues, the U.S. Geological Survey released a study this week on the changes to New York's Fire Island. The report verifies what many of the aerial pictures of the barrier island have shown. More than half of the sand that was held in dunes and on the beaches disappeared in Sandy. The recently released study also quantified some of the losses. Fire Island's beaches are now about 10 feet lower. Its protective dunes were eroded inland by up to 118 feet, and some of those dunes were breached. But not all of the study contained bad news. The lead study author, Cheryl Hapke, said 18% of the lost sand volume has already returned to Fire Island. Storms in the fall and winter, like Sandy, are known to pull sand out into the ocean. That same sand usually washes back to shore in the summer months, but that process can be very slow. Quote, dunes take years to build back up, whereas beaches take a season. Wind is a longer process than one driven by water and waves, Hapke said. As a popular tourist destination and vacation spot, it will take years to build Fire Island back up to what it used to be. Up next, Christy will be by with the Labor Day weekend forecast.
Well, Tyler, before we get to some relief from this muggy weather, we need to go through an unsettled weather pattern first. Taking a look here at Friday's setup, a high is to our south, a cold front to our north, and a low pressure system that will slowly be forming to the west of us. So what do we expect here in State College on Friday? A pop-up thunderstorm, almost like a summer-like pattern due to daytime heating. And then Saturday, this low pressure system is forming, and it will be very humid here in State College. Expect dew points to be up in the upper 60s. So it will be kind of oppressive here on Saturday. By Sunday, that low pressure system is moving closer into our region. We will be under the warm front on Sunday, and then that'll rush through the cold front coming in on Labor Day. So it will be kind of stormy for your Labor Day, unfortunately, and the entire weekend. 83 degrees for Friday. Pop-up storm is possible again because of that daytime heating, and expect cloudy skies. By Friday night, as the temperatures do cool, it will become partly cloudy and 61 will be the low. Then on Saturday, kind of the same thing. Daytime heating and that humidity will lead to some isolated thunderstorms, and a high around 81 degrees here in Center County. It's almost a good thing that Penn State isn't playing here, but New Jersey will still be feeling that humid air. On Saturday night, expect a low around 64 degrees and mostly cloudy as that warm front does approach the region. And then on Sunday, when the warm front is here, expect a high around 83 degrees and scattered thunderstorms due to that unstable air with that low pressure system. And then Monday, your Labor Day forecast, unfortunately, we'll see some thunderstorms and showers due to that cold front that is going to be rushing through on Monday, a high around 80 degrees. So if you are planning on grilling outside, you might want to take it inside, or make sure you keep checking the radar in between because it is summer's last gasp.
Universities are the center of communities and towns across America. They are sources of employment and local constant boon to local businesses. Institutions of higher education are hubs of intelligence, research, and community service that draw diversified populations to every corner of the United States. The varying demographics that form any given university community allow it to thrive through the unique cultures and viewpoints brought to the community. The subject matter knowledge of students and faculty is truly remarkable, but it often includes one glaring omission. That omission is the knowledge of the weather of their new location. University populations, since they are comprised of such a national and international variety of demographics, are often divided in their ability to remain safe during dangerous weather. Emergency instructions for hazardous weather conditions remain standard across the United States, while standards for education fall to the curb. Take a moment to think. Do you know what the difference between a weather watch and a weather warning are? Did you know that the National Weather Service thresholds for weather advisories and notifications differ between some local area offices? In the event of hazardous weather conditions, could you quickly find your university's hazardous weather plan? Penn State is taking the reins for university preparedness with a new project called Weather Ready University. The project was initiated this summer with the hopes of targeting and correcting deficiencies in hazardous weather preparedness at Penn State. The process started by analyzing the risks that the weather poses to University Park, Pennsylvania. Let's talk to Pam Soul, the emergency management planner at Penn State, about weather risks posed to Penn State.
Well, typically here at the University Park campus, we'll see wind, rain, and snow are our most typical events. Rain can come in large quantities and cause issues such as this summer we had a brief period where we had a flash flood.
With reality in mind, the Office of Emergency Management is working towards raising the average knowledge level of awareness so that Nittany Lions will know what to do when dangerous weather strikes. The challenge that emergency managers encounter is that it's hard to educate a population that doesn't feel compelled to understand hazardous weather precautions. To compensate, the Weather Ready University program has two tiers of preparedness. On the basic level, the office has published articles in digital and print media that will get the students' attention about how to remain safe during severe weather. On the second level, students will have the opportunity to participate in Skywarn training offered by the National Weather Service office at State College. Let's go now to talk to a member of the National Weather Service office in State College.
Penn State being storm ready, just like any community or municipality or county that's storm ready, means that they have taken extra steps to prepare the community, in this case University Park, for adverse weather. And that ranges all the way from pre-planning a potential weather emergency to the recovery efforts after something were to hit the university.
The bottom line for students is this. To remain safe from the weather at Penn State, make sure you keep up contact with the Office of Emergency Management. This can be done through the Office of Emergency Management website or through connecting with them through social media. However, the most important connection to have is through PSU text for life-threatening events. Next time you're curious about the storm clouds above the IM field or the heat during a football game, turn into the Penn State Office of Emergency Management and find out if the weather is going to be dangerous.
Let's take one last look for Labor Day weekend and then the week beyond. So what are we seeing? On Saturday, we have a chance of isolated thunderstorms and a high around 81 degrees. And then on Sunday, those storms become a little bit more prevalent with a high around 83 degrees. And unfortunately, Labor Day, we will see storms continue because of a cold front passing through. So a high around 80 degrees, but it shouldn't be much. It won't be a washout. But after Monday, we do see very nice weather coming in on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Thursday, there's a chance of some showers, and then Friday, it's going to be a little cloudy, but look at those temperatures. They're cooler than average to start September.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to the nicer weather that you have in your extended forecast. But for now, we have our Weather Whiz quiz. Earlier in the show, we asked you what is the average first date of a hurricane in the Atlantic Basin. The choices were A, June 30th, B, August 10th, C, September 3rd, or D, September 26th. The answer was B, August 10th. That is the average first date that we see a hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean. But this year, even though it's been predicted to be above average in terms of activity, we still haven't seen a hurricane, and it's the end of August. So, Christy, what are things looking like over the next couple of weeks? Is there anything that's on the map right now, or what should we be expecting?
Well, the peak of hurricane season is actually in September, and we've even seen hurricanes in past years be in October. So, I wouldn't rule anything out right at the moment.
Yeah, that is certainly some wise words. Well, before we leave you tonight, we have a viewer picture to show you. One of our advisors for this show, Dr. John Neese, took a gorgeous sunset picture here in State College just a few weeks ago, and there you see that picture. Look at the Nice orange colors. Thank you for sending that in, John. For myself, Christy, and Tom Bedard, we thank you for joining us this week, and we hope to see you right back here next week.